Hello students, this is Dr. Vibha Tiwari, Assistant Professor of English, Chaudhary Balluram Godara, Government Girls College, Sri Ganganagar. Students, I'm back with another video on the poem Locksley Hall. In my previous videos, I had discussed with you people the lines which described the narrator's childhood days that he spent on the particular place called Locksley Hall, and there he had even discussed the phase when he declared his love for his cousin Amy. So in today's line we are going to have Amy's reaction to that declaration of love. Let's have the original text first. Saying, I have hid my feelings, fearing they should do me wrong. Saying, dost thou love me, cousin? Weeping, I have loved thee long. Love took up the glass of time and turned it in his glowing hands. Every moment, lightly shaken, ran itself in golden sands. Now these lines very beautifully describe the reaction of the beloved towards the proposal of the narrator. When the narrator openly declared his love for his cousin, the lady got excited, and then finally she said whatever she intended to say. And she said that up till now she was hiding her true feelings for the narrator. She was not sure of whether she should discuss the matter or rather disclose the thing to him. She said that she was of the opinion that perhaps it is wrong to do so. And she also said, rather she was not able to digest this fact. She was so much happy, she was so much excited at the proposal of the narrator that she said, she again inquired, dost thou love me, cousin? As if she wanted to convince herself. She asked him if that is true. And then she started weeping. This is the very common reaction when suddenly something you can say positive happens. One gets overwhelmed with emotions, and the lady started weeping. And then she declared, I have loved thee long. She herself had fallen in love with the narrator, and the narrator had you can say declared the love at that instant, whereas the lady says that she had already fallen in love with him. And this was the golden moment in the life of the narrator. He says, love took up the glass of time and turned it in his glowing hands. He says, when both of them had declared their love for one another, suddenly everything appeared to them full of love. So personifying love and time, the narrator says that it appeared to him as if love itself took the hourglass in its hands and started turning. That means all the moments from then onwards were full of love, full of passion, because both of them were young. Every moment, lightly shaken, ran itself in golden sands. It appeared to him as if after the declaration, the moments that they spent together, they were as if the golden sand of the hourglass was falling, you can say, moment by moment. That means all the moments, all the time, they were involved in one another, and they were so full of love for one another that nothing else mattered to them. And it is very common for the lovers and the beloveds. For them, nothing else exists. Once they declare their love for one another, there is nothing else that matters for them. And same was the case with the narrator and his beloved also. So These lines very beautifully describe the declaration or the acceptance of the beloved of the narrator, whom we call as Amy. Amy finally declares that she herself had fallen in love with the narrator. She admits her true feelings for the narrator, and this was the golden moment for the narrator. It appeared to him that from then onwards, whatever time he used to spend with the beloved, those were as if the golden moments of his life, as if the golden sand of his life, which was in the golden hourglass, which was in the hand of time, that was being lightly shaken. Let's proceed further. Love took up the harp of life and smote on all the chords with might, smote the chord of self that trembling passed in music out of sight. Many a morning on the moorland did we hear the corpses ring, and her whisper thronged my pulses with the fullness of the spring. And when both of them declared their love for one another, it appeared to the poet as if now the full control of their lives was in the hand of love. As I told you in the previous stanza, that love has been personified, time has been personified, even life has been personified in these lines. So he says, now love acquired the role of a musician. And here it has been compared to a musician, and their life has been compared to a harp. And the poet says, the narrator says, love played on their lives and produced sweet, harmonious music, the music of love. They were in such full sympathy with each other. Such was their love that all the discordant and jarring elements of self and egoism were silenced and were no longer heard. Smote the chord of self, that means whatever ego, whatever selfishness was there, it also passed away with the music that the love played in their lives. In other words, we can say they started living for each other without ever thinking of their individual selves, which is a very common thing that occurs to the lovers or the beloveds. For them, nothing else matters. Many a morning on the moorland did we hear the corpses ring. The narrator says we started passing time together, and as we enjoyed one another's company, we could hear the echoing of the woodland with the songs of bird. That means everything appeared beautiful to them, everything appeared melodious to them. And her whisper thronged my pulses with the fullness of the spring. And the narrator says that as Amy whispered words of love to him, he felt the flood of youthful passion overflowing in his veins. That means these were the moments when he actually experienced the supreme ecstasy of love. The moments that he spent in the company of Amy, those were the moments when he could really experience the ecstasy of life. So these lines very beautifully describe the fact that when one falls in love, nothing else matters to him. There is no ego, there is no selfishness, and one gets devoted to the other one, to the love interest, to his or her love interest. Same happened with the narrator also. And when he was in the company of his beloved, for him nothing else matters. Nature appeared beautiful to him. The chirping of bird was melodious to him, and whenever his beloved spoke, it was kind of, you can say, a matter of excitement for him. Many an evening by the waters did we watch the stately ships, and our spirits rushed together at the touching of the lips. O my cousin, shallow-hearted, O my Amy, mine no more, Oh, the dreary, dreary moorland, oh, the barren, barren shore. The poet says, or the narrator says, that many evenings we had spent together watching the movement of the ships, and we also enjoyed moments of physical intimacy. And he says, as they kissed, their very souls seemed to flow out and mingle. It appeared to the narrator that Amy was so much devoted to him that when he used to kiss her, it appeared to him as if their souls might have left the body and started mingling outside. But suddenly all this changed, and Amy left him. So there is a change in the tone also. The poet says, "Oh my cousin, shallow-hearted." Suddenly, these lines come as a jolt. The bonhomie that up till now the narrator was enjoying, suddenly that broke apart. And Amy left him. So the narrator says, these lines rather express the poignant grief of the lover at the faithlessness of his cousin, because she agreed to marry another. That's why the narrator calls him shallow-hearted. She was such a shallow being that she left him for materialistic gain. Oh, my Amy, mine no more. Though these words appear very simple, but one can experience the grief, the depth of, you can say, sadness or sorrow or grief which is lying underneath. He says, "Oh, my Amy, mine no more." Amy was now no more for him. That means she married someone else. Oh, the dreary, dreary moorland, oh, the barren, barren shore. And suddenly, the nature also took a turn. To the frustrated lover, the moors were no longer beautiful and fertile. They appeared dreary to him. They appeared dull to him, and the shore barren. So, we can say that these lines are in sharp contrast to the previous lines where he had beautifully described the season of spring, because at that time he was hopeful of the love of his cousin. But when the cousin left him, the scene changed altogether, and the same moor and the same shore which earlier appeared to him full of passion and love now started appearing barren to him. So these lines very beautifully describe the sudden change of events in the life of the narrator. Now that's it for today. We are going to continue this poem in my next video also.